Imagine waking up and making a quiet promise to yourself. Today, it stops. You swear off the endless scrolling, the gambling, or the drinking. But by the time the sun goes down, that promise evaporates. You find yourself right back where you started, trapped in the exact same repetitive loop, despite a genuine, conscious desire to break free. When society sees this happen, the default response is to blame the individual. The assumption is that this repetition occurs because a person lacks discipline, suffers from weak willpower, or selfishly chooses temporary pleasure over long-term stability. Relying on willpower as the primary explanation misinterprets why these behaviors occur. If discipline alone were the cure, these relentless cycles would have been broken long ago. Consider the path of a young man who sits at a computer to play video games. At first, it's a harmless way to unwind and pass the time. Slowly, the screen demands more of his life. He spends hours, then borrows money to keep playing, and eventually starts lying to his family, hiding a compulsion that quietly destroys his closest relationships. That exact same mechanism is operating in the executive who compulsively works 80-hour weeks, the teenager glued to their social media feed, and the wealthy entrepreneur endlessly chasing the next million. If addiction is strictly a matter of illicit drugs and poor moral character, we have to ask why so many highly functional, successful members of society find themselves locked in these identical, inescapable patterns. Our cultural definition of this problem is dangerously narrow. By only looking for extreme edge cases, we overlook the millions of people trapped in self-destructive cycles they don't even recognize as addiction. Physician and researcher Dr. Gabor Maté has spent decades treating severe addiction, and his clinical observations offer a different way to view these patterns. Maté defines addiction as any behavior providing temporary relief, causing long-term harm, and creating an inability to quit. Under these criteria, compulsive social media use, chronic binge eating, and toxic relationships meet the clinical threshold for genuine addiction. The modern attention economy functions as a sophisticated engineering project designed to exploit these specific vulnerabilities under the guise of convenience. To explain the psychological engine driving this compulsion, Maté points to an ancient Buddhist concept, the realm of hungry ghosts. The creatures depicted are cursed by their anatomy. They have massive stomachs, but microscopic throats, forced to consume endlessly without ever feeling full. Maté uses this as a direct parallel for modern humanity. People accumulate endless streams of wealth, status, and digital content, yet remain perpetually empty inside. The specific substance a person consumes is rarely the actual problem. The real issue is the hollow emotional void they are desperately trying to fill. Viewed through this lens, addiction functions as a survival mechanism, a deeply ingrained painkiller deployed to numb unresolved emotional suffering. Yet, our legal and social systems largely treat addicts as criminals, subjecting them to public judgment and severe punishment. This intense societal rejection forces the suffering individual into deep isolation, wrapping their behavior in a suffocating layer of shame. If addiction serves as a coping mechanism for pain, introducing punishment only adds more suffering to the equation, which in turn strengthens the original impulse to seek relief. Using shame to cure an addiction works about as well as trying to extinguish a house fire by dousing the flames in gasoline. If you saw a person drowning in the ocean, you wouldn't stand on the shore and angrily yell at them to swim better. You would recognize they are sinking and try to understand why. Healing an addiction requires the exact same logic. We have to abandon our societal instinct for immediate judgment and replace it with a framework of radical compassion. This requires a shift in how we interrogate behavior. Instead of looking at an addict and asking, "What is wrong with you?" we need to start asking, "What happened to you?" If every addiction is an attempt to escape deep internal pain, we are left with a critical mystery. Where does that pain actually originate, long before the very first bet is placed or the first drink is poured?